Yeah, last week, news broke that Jamaican quarter-miler Christopher Taylor was charged by the Athletics Integrity Unit for a violation of the World Anti-Doping Agency Water Code. The 23-year-old has been charged under Article 2.3, which speaks to evading, refusing, or failing to submit to sample collection. There are several versions of the chain of events that led to this charge for the Olympic and World Championship 400-meter finalist. We at SportsMax have been following the story closely, and these are the facts that we can now confirm. The incident happened on November 16, 2022. The testing process started at his home and not at the airport. Important, because it has been reported previously, it was at least thought previously, that he was at the airport when the drug testing officials turned up, but that is not the case. The drug testing official traveled with him to the Norman Manley International Airport. No sample was taken. He boarded a flight to Florida. The charge is evading or failing to submit to sample collection. He has been provisionally suspended. He faces a maximum ban of 4 years from the sport, and he has until Friday to respond to the Athletics Integrity Unit. As I understand it, that response will say whether he plans to challenge the charge that has been laid down by the AIU. Now, joining us on the phone to further discuss Taylor's case is former JADCO lead control officer, Dr. Paul Wright. Dr. Paul, I feel as if every time we have you on this show, it is an unfortunate situation of an anti-doping rule violation. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, and it's always good to be on the program. What I'd like to do, however, is to just get on my soapbox for a minute, because there are some YouTube being sent on social media that seems to be adversarial to the doping authorities in Jamaica. Now, let me start by saying that every elite athlete wants to get the edge over the other athlete. It may be a training method. It may be the equipment that they use. It may be the surface that they run on. Our own Usain Bolt use cryotherapy. Everybody has their own thing. What we need from anti-doping is to engage the athletes, let them know what is banned, what is not banned, and have regular meetings with these elite athletes and to reapprise them of the rules and keep them up to date on the rules. Jamaica hits above its weight in athletics. What we are doing on the world stage is against every known authority in the world, and every organization that I've been to. And I've been to China, I've been to Europe, I've been to North America, I've been to South America. I'm trying to find out what makes the Jamaicans so special. And one of the easy things to do is to say that we use drugs or we use sports. So our local anti-doping authority has a mandate to make sure that our athletes understand what is banned, what is not banned, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. And therefore we have different ways of doing it. Now, one of the things that you have to know, if you test positive at a meet, at a track meet that you are scheduled to go on, that is an IQ test, because you know exactly the date that you are going to be tested. You know that you're not supposed to be using certain things, that if you use those things and you test positive, that is your business. So what the anti-doping authorities really do, as well as the whereabouts form, where every day for 365 days a year, 366 on leap years, you put where you're going to be for a 1 hour window every day. And that is the time the anti-doping authority can turn up where you say you're supposed to be, and if you are not there, that is a doping violation. You are contacted after that, and 3 such violations in a year will put you on the list where you go and explain to an independent body why you missed those 3 tests. However, if we do out of control anti-doping tests that we don't inform you, and the doping authorities, the tester sees you and tells you, identifies himself, I am Lance Whitaker, I'm a doping officer and I've come to drug test you. You must comply with that test. Probably not immediately, but you cannot come out of the sight of the dope control officer until you produce the sample. And that is the rule. And our people must know that rule, because as you are now pointing out, what happened is that this started at his home. Apparently no sample was tested, and the doping authority, the tester, kept his eye on him all the way to the airport and I suspect another attempt was made there. None was forthcoming, sample and event and a flight. That means you have evaded the test. Now, the good news, he is able to explain that with a lawyer or a representative to an anti-doping authority that is different from the local anti-doping authority, and we let the chips fall where it may. But you have to know the rules, respect the rules, and understand why Jamaica's anti-doping authority are so gung-ho in trying to get our athletes to understand that you cannot sully our name. We are punching way above our weight, and people are suspicious of us.
Yeah, there are so many questions I have out of everything you just said, Dr. Wright. And before I get to the specifics of this Chris Taylor case, I just wanted to get from you, is it that you are saying the local anti-doping authority, JADCO in this case, is not doing enough to sensitize the athletes, to get the athletes to understand the difference between a whereabouts violation as opposed to evading or failing to submit to sample collection?
I don't know what the present scenario is, but I can tell you what I have recommended in the past is that you have every 3 months a seminar, because the anti-doping authority in Jamaica has a list of athletes that fall under their jurisdiction in 9 different sports, including weightlifting and judo, all those sports. Whenever you represent the country or represent the island or you're an elite athlete, you are on this list. Now this list, some of them live overseas, some live here. But every 3 months, you need to set up a seminar or a program where you reintroduce these rules to the athletes, and there's a sanction for missing it. You can't just don't turn up for two of these seminars and say, boy, I was feeling sick or so. You get the date and you are supposed to be there. And if you miss those 2 dates, then there's a sanction. Not a sanction of suspension, but there is something that you can work up with the anti-doping authority. I don't know if this is being done, but I really felt at the time when I was there that this had to be done. Because what I suspect they're doing is that they are going at children and people who are coming into the sport and doing the different seminars, which is very good. But it is the elite athletes that are in the doping pool. You need to keep reminding them over and over again, because sometimes as you get more prominent and more in the limelight, you tend to become a little cocky and feel that, I don't have to go back to this thing because I know everything. But if you don't come, there should be a small sanction.
Yeah, I'm extremely happy, Dr. Wright, that you just pointed out the difference between the whereabouts violation, where you miss 3 tests in the period of a year, 12 months, as opposed to evading or failing to submit to a sample, which happens after the drug testing official shows up, identifies themselves to you and says, I am here to do a test. If after that you don't submit to the sample, then that counts as evading or failing to submit to sample collection, which is what Chris Taylor is charged for in this case. Let me see how best I can put this question to you, Dr. Wright. We just laid out the facts as we have them. I suspect that there would be conversations from leaving his home, because at least one drug testing official, DCO, would have traveled in the vehicle with him to the Norman Manley International Airport, would have kept eye on him once they got to the Norman Manley International Airport. Given your vast experience in this area, what are likely to be some of the conversations between the DCO and the athlete on their travels?
Number one, I just passed some urine a while ago, and I really can't pass any urine now. I'm due to go to a flight down at the Norman Manley Airport. Let us go down there. There's a bathroom down there, an area that is secluded that you can do it, and hope that by that time I can pass urine, because I'm going to be drinking a glass of water or some fluid or something. Okay? But you have to you can't take your eyes off of him. He can't go into the bathroom and you're not into the bathroom. He can't go into the room and you're not in the room. He can't go into a car and you're not in the same car. You have to keep your eye on him until he passes the urine. At the Norman Manley Airport, I suspect, I don't know, that the same thing happened. You go and you try to get some urine, car parked in the urine, you cannot leave. Because if you leave and don't give the urine sample or the blood sample, then you are guilty of an offense.
Well, Dr. Wright, let me put this question to you then. If you are the DCO and you get to the Norman Manley International Airport and the athlete says to you, I am on a flight, it's 7 o'clock, I have just checked in, boarding is at 7:20, for example, I have 20 minutes to get onto that flight, and he says I have to go because I'm 20 minutes away from my flight, and if I don't go now, I am going to miss it. As the DCO, how do you deal with that situation at that particular time?
I take out my handkerchief, dab my eyes, because I'm very sorry, but you cannot go until you pass the urine.
And if the athlete insists?
Well, he does, but he knows that there's a consequence, and that consequence is his future.
In that moment, can you explain to the athlete what the consequence is?
So, let me tell you something. If I ever tell you my 10, 15 years as a door control officer, before JADCO and after JADCO, some of the excuses that I get. I have athletes who go into the bathroom to pass urine and just sit on the toilet and have a bowel action right in front of me, hoping that I would be embarrassed and leave. They do all sorts of things, you know, to get you to be embarrassed. But the moment I identify myself to you and tell you that I'm a dope control officer and I've come to collect a sample, you can't leave my side. If you ever leave my side, then everything is out of the window.
I get that part, Doctor.
The dope control officer will explain all of this to you and tell you the consequence of going on that flight without the sample being passed.
And it is well within the rules for the doping control officer to explain to the athlete what the potential consequence or consequences are.
Yes, because our dope control officers are supposed to be au fait with this, and most of them, I don't know the present crop, but most of them have been through this already. Because let me tell you something, elite athletes do not like dope testing. There's only one elite athlete in my entire history who would smile when I come to do drug testing, and that is Usain Bolt. Every other dope control, every other athlete want to know why you come now. You want to, some say I'm a pervert, I only come to look at them, and they have all these other things to tell you. But that is how it is. So you're going to get these stories all the time. So you are well aware of the stories and you're well aware of the rules and you explain it to the athlete.
What if a case comes down to he said, she said, meaning the athlete says, well, this is the conversation I had with the DCO and this is the information that the DCO gave me, which is now separate from what I'm seeing, let us say, in the written report?
That goes to a tribunal that listens to the evidence of the dope control officer and any other evidence that he might have to prove his point. They listen to the athlete and their point of view and listen to any other evidence the athlete might have, and they do, and they make a ruling. That has happened to me with an elite athlete. I had an elite athlete, and the elite athlete and both of us and their chaperone at the time agreed to something. At the independent tribunal, the athlete says something completely different. I had the evidence that I had, the authorities listened, and they ruled in favor of the athlete. So the athlete always has a chance to counteract what the dope control officer says, or what they are saying, their side and the dope control officer's side, and both sides have an opportunity to present to independent panel, and independent panel rules. And both sides understand that the ruling of the independent authority is what counts.
Mm. Yeah, Doc, you said a few minutes ago that athletes, when they reach a certain level, they tend to get a bit cocky. I want to get a sense of, based on your experience, because I'm finding it very difficult to believe that Christopher Taylor knew the consequences of leaving without giving a sample, that he would be facing an evasion charge. I find it hard to believe that he knew that and still left on the flight.
That means, in those cases, you have to wonder if the flight was so important to him that he thought that he could evade something and get away with it. Because that is what happens. You can't do those things. And that's why the dope control officer has got to explain it to him. And that is why JADCO must have these seminars where you explain to people that you cannot do that.
So you're saying there is always a chance, Dr. Wright, if you can prove, let us say you can prove that the discussion with the DCO led you down a path that got you to arrive at the decision you made.
Yes, well, as I tell you, that has happened. I had evidence, including a signature on a form, that the athlete agreed with me on a certain procedure. The athlete in the hearing had a completely different story. And I presented my evidence, the athlete presented their evidence, and the independent panel ruled. So you have an opinion that you listen to the independent authority, and both sides going to the independent authority know that whatever the independent authority says is gospel. So you have an opportunity to show that, yes, he told me I could go and pass the test overseas, because some of them said that, I will do the test overseas. But that can't work. Once I give you my identity, give you my credentials as a dope control officer and tell you why I'm there, you cannot not pass the urine.
Yeah, Doc, we're out of time, way out of time. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure, and it's revealing, this conversation with you, as it usually is. And I'm sure we'll be chatting again before this case is over.
Thanks for having me again, as usual.
Yeah, Dr. Paul Wright. We're rushing to a break. We'll be back with more on the SportsMax Zone.